SFJ 4x4 Studios presents
in my oversized four-wheel drive Jeep.
a Jeep podcast starring industry experts.
Pure monosity.
What? Say that again.
With mad scientist Scott Brown,
Use my drill press as a sword of blade.
our host Neil Simpson,
If one light goes out, they all go out.
filled with shenanigans.
We are really professional with Jeeps.
This is I Speak Jeep.
Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever, however you are joining us. This is the I Speak Jeep podcast presented by SFJ4x4.com.
Are you sure?
My name is Neil with Simpson Family Jeeps, and I am joined in studio on this relatively commemorative day. Bring it down just a notch. It is September 11th, 2023, and I'm joined in studio with our co-hosts. Who's going first?
So I'll go first. Jeff Shermani, the producer.
The Italian stallion.
And I'm going to say, and then Mr. Are you sure over there?
Mr. Are you sure?
Yep. The maddest mad scientist.
He's
Scott
not
Brown.
sure.
I'm not sure.
My mom bought you a Mad Scientist mix
Of M&Ms.
of M&Ms.
They're delicious.
I thought that was the cutest thing in the world. I love when people think of us
the
and
only
they're out
thing
and
I
about in
wish
the real world.
It is, for a minute, I was like, oh, they took all the extras and put in there. No, they probably just made that bag.
They probably did.
Yeah.
They
Somebody
probably
had
did.
an idea because of all the extra.
There's a
Yeah.
bunch of like extra types of M&Ms rolling
Yeah.
around the floor.
Yes.
You
They're like-
really wanted the floor M&Ms. Is that what I hear?
No. I
No?
mean, for a moment, I was, in my mind, they were like in a bin or something. It was a little better than on the floor M&Ms.
Oh, they weren't.
They're definitely floor M&Ms.
They're definitely.
Um,
It would be floor M&Ms. Scott, I mean,
Darla's saying happy Monday. Joe's saying good morning, or good gentle morning, and ladies, men.
absolutely.
Wow, that's a tongue twister because
Yes.
it's so well worded, Joe.
I love it. I love how his brain works. Yeah, I was saying I love and appreciate all of our listeners, our followers online and on these platforms and on the YouTube, who think of us when they're navigating the real world and either fill our bellies when they come into our brick and mortar, or they reach out with things that remind them of us, online and share that with us. And so understand that if that's, something that you have done, we do see you. We value that. We appreciate that. So thank you so much for that kind of support. Additionally, if you really are motivated to further the support of this podcast, you too can be one of our Patreons.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a tremendously valuable resource to us that aids directly in the production of this podcast.
I just had a brainwave.
Oh,
We should have the tiers be cookies, cake, and like, I don't know, full course meal or something like that. It should have levels on our
I
Discord.
think Scott's mind is on food right now.
are you hungry? Do you need?
Well, you brought up about everybody brings us treats, which we appreciate, by the way, and you should
Yes.
bring more.
I heard there's coffee cake coming in the near future.
Ooh,
there's
like the
But there was
coffee
a- there
cake
was
we
a-
had before.
there's a
there was
stipulation.
a stipulation of coffee cake to
Neil's not getting it
to
right.
long arms. No, there
No,
was
no.
an attempt to barter to distinctly barter the acquisition of coffee cake to the expense of long arms.
It was how many coffee cakes do we need to bring you
right,
Oh.
right,
for us
right,
to
right.
long arm the Jeep?
Mm.
Yes.
And to which
It's a lot of
Neil
coffee cake.
appropriately has just put out that there's something he's going to be doing on social media coming up
Mhm.
in honor of that customer.
As
yes,
he should.
Yes. Well,
Has to do with ropes. I'm just going to leave it there.
wow.
That tried a weird turn all of a sudden.
I was gonna say, where did
You
that?
just have to watch your social media and see what happens.
I guess, right? And that's a valuable push to say, we have our Patreons and they have access to a Patreon thread, but also an insider's fast pass with Discord. Where they can kind of be in a kind of a dedicated chat space with us,
Mhm.
get some behind the scenes input into what's going on in our lives and projects. But then also, you should head over to our YouTube page and, make sure you're following along. We have released At kind of the Savages' encouragement, we have moved towards more of kind of a lifestyle vlog experience. So Tech Tuesday has kind of morphed. It does show a number of the vehicles that we do work on. However, it also kind of gives you a behind the scenes look at what makes SFJ uniquely SFJ, into us as people and our interactions inside, inside our brick and mortar or inside the scope of the lens of the camera. And we've recently retitled that Life in Low Range. So what was formerly the SFJ 4x4 Vlogs or Tech Tuesday has had this really cool organic experience where it has morphed into a little series called Life in Low Range. The value of that, of course, is the fact that one of the things that makes Jeeps and off-roading, kind of unique to our off-road experience is our ability to select, for low, right?
Yeah.
And
so what you're saying is the videos told you it needed a name change.
it did. The videos, yes, the production and the videos told us, yes, to take your approach on how we build our restorations and whatnot. It told us it needed a name change, and so you're gonna see some of that branding. So if you see some of that popping up on your screen, that is what it is. It's kind of the new and improved vlog Tech Tuesday experience. There's a couple other really kind of cool associations that go with Life in Low Range, but we'll let you, our viewers and listeners, kind of unpack that and kind of create those associations in your own mind.
I like Joe Brella's comment here. A Neil Meal, Scott Snacks, Jeff Junk Food, and Greg Goodies.
It's like he knows us.
It's like he knows us
way too well.
Wow. Wow, that is an excellent idea.
Batting 100, Joe.
Oh, my gracious. All right. So it is today's episode. We are going to be discussing the three worst mods.
I just want to
The worst
apologize right
first
now.
mods, right? So, and now the fun piece of this is we have not consulted with each other.
No.
Nope.
But the three worst first mods, which I just think is a fun way to say it. So we are actually all going to be kind of discussing what we believe that those mods to be. I am trying desperately to make mine ultra unique and not have anything to do with anything that you guys are going to conjure up.
So before we get into that, Dale saying good morning, and Joe, I almost said Savage sausages, then thought better of it.
But there it is.
There
it is. So it is
so
for the good of us.
in honor
And
of
good morning, Dale.
In honor of Chuck, I wonder how girthy those sausages are.
Oh, yeah.
There it is.
Folks, and if you're listening in to us, and we appreciate all three of you who do listen to us in your ear holes while you're driving truck or working on the factory floor or at the assembly plant at Jeep, we do genuinely
or if you're in a meeting.
If you're in a air quote meeting, yes. We appreciate you listening to us, but understand that on any given Monday, you too can join us live, starting at 10:19. Jump on the Book of Faces and hang out in the comment section and engage with some of our regulars and have fun, with these inside jokes and have some side conversations and meet some other cool Jeepers. It's really fun to see the relationships that have specifically kind of come about because of people, relating to SFJ 4x4. And it's really neat to see the friendships and the wheeling companionships that have kind of transpired because of meeting under this commonality that we have. So cool stuff there. Again, 3 worst first mods. We'll be talking about that shortly. But as we normally do in our good conversation about where the Jeep life has taken us, again, we've all built and wheeled cool Jeep vehicles over the years. And that's that rugged individualism that kind of makes us think we can kind of do anything, kind of thrusts us into experiences that we're probably not super capable of handling, and yet we endeavor and jump into them anyways.
Yes.
And with no further ado, what are some of those things?
Before you get to that, I just want to, because you mentioned the 9/11 and the solemnness of it.
Yes.
Obviously we take a moment about that, recognize. And if you have not listened to our episode from last year about that, I believe you tied 9/11 to a Jeeping story.
Yes.
So I think it's important that you go back and watch that episode. We're not going to spend too much time on it this episode because we have talked about it.
Correct. And we recognize the sacrifice and the lives lost. Also, the tremendous unity that was felt and experienced in those exact moments afterwards. And it's so valuable that those of us who are around, if we can try and hold that position of unity and camaraderie, kind of dear to our hearts, and try and live in that space every day, I think the world would be a better place. It has unfortunately kind of eroded away to some misinformation and kind of our normal, unfortunate busyness of life. We don't focus on that feeling where we were all unified for a short period of time. And inspired, right? People became, Jeffrey, you became a firefighter because of that. People joined civic and community, military organizations to try and create a better world. People shared, they prayed publicly, they, wrote poetry and pieces and took pictures and really tried to join together.
They slowed down.
They
That's the
slowed
important
down.
part.
Yes.
And that was a really valuable, positive outcome. We made the best of what that situation was. So we hope that you can potentially find some of that on this day as well. But if you do want to engage in some of our personal stories and even my Jeep story with that, you want to go back and find that episode from last year. We'll talk about that stuff again in the future for our new listeners. But we want to have something fresh and different and engaging as well.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of engaging, the American Hustle the episode releasing this Friday. We're talking about beach balls. You got to go check that out.
Yes,
Yeah, beach balls this Friday and NASCAR racing next week. So, and
All
American
about
Hustle
leadership.
is all about leadership, personal development, and community and social organizing. So, go figure how those things are related, folks. I mean, if you want to be motivated and engaged in the automotive community, that's what SFJ 4x4 is here for. Both the physical application thereof, building Jeeps, going places, and actually using these vehicles for what they were built for, but also the kind of the social emotional stuff. We really want to reach those levels as well.
And just because I'm on the kick of teasers, Scott didn't do any titles this week, so I'm going to steal a title, and I'm going to say I'm a travel agent.
Oh dear.
You're a travel agent.
You know what that's about.
I do, folks. You're gonna wanna stay tuned for that coming soon in the SFJ 4x4 media world. You did a great job being a travel agent recently. All right, sir. You had some big updates over the weekend. I know some people are hyped up on following your accounts, despite the fact that you're injured.
So
I'd really like to talk about your injury.
I would love to
For
hear.
people that don't know, you should look at your backyard and then close your eyes and imagine, can you pass through that space unassisted with
In the
light
dark.
In the dark. And if you can't, move some stuff, like specifically a park bench.
A park bench that's been there for a decade at
Well,
this
no,
point.
it wasn't in that specific spot.
Oh, okay.
I
Okay.
was, it was laying in wait for me. It jumped out in front of me.
This is the
Laying in
concept
wait.
of moving a couch in a blind person's home.
That's true.
Oh dear.
You shouldn't do that. I
Oh,
learned
dear.
that firsthand. I also learned how bad ribs hurt for the first time in my life. If you injure them, do not recommend.
So what I'm hearing is
pass.
that you got absolutely your butt handed to you
By a park bench.
by a park bench.
Yes, and I did injure the park bench as part of it injuring
That's
me.
right. Give it the business.
I thought I was going to die there for a moment on the park bench.
This is how I go out.
I
Yes.
feel like he got hit by a lineman in football and doesn't even
Right.
understand the reference.
Right.
I wasn't the most athletic in high school. I was too busy working on cars while Neil was getting, beat up on the field, or beating other people up on the field.
Either way, both applicable. Both applicable.
But I had just intentions. I wanted to have a nice fire ready for my
You
wife
had
to
a
come home.
romantic evening
Yes,
planned
I
for your
Put
wife.
the kids to bed. It's like, she'd come home. The fire will just be going. We can get out
A
of our
little
chairs,
campfire in the
sit
back.
down, relax, decompress. We were, have Labor Day the next day, so we didn't have to get up, go anywhere. And the bench was like, but wait, here I am. And I was on my phone.
Were you running through the backyard? Like what?
Kind of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the kids, do kids ever go to bed on a timely manner?
No.
I mean,
No.
that was
How
a
dark
problem.
was it?
Dark.
So we're talking like 10, 11 o'clock at night, Eastern time.
10-ish, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it was very dark. It was very, tree cover there, and, no moonlight, so it was dark. And my eyes had not adjusted yet. I did not give it time. I was on a mission, and the park bench.
Was it that your
smacked
eyes
me.
hadn't adjusted, or the fact you can't see in the dark?
Well, the eyes haven't adjusted.
I
I actually see pretty good in the dark.
do you? Because I was going to say, I think it's
It's just you that's getting old, Neil.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, there it is. Well, well, you know what? And I deserve that because the motivation for what I was about to share was
I know.
not kind.
I know.
And you
why.
just cut me off at the knees. It was
Yes.
just whap.
There was a
I
park
was just-
bench.
But
He
but
wasn't ready for the park
I
bench.
wasn't ready for the park bench. I wasn't.
Park bench came out and got him.
Because Jeffrey threw the park bench at me.
Yes.
And I mean, I feel like Jeff saw me going for the unkind statement. And Jeff just was on the sidelines and just chucked the bench out into the
Yes.
into the conversation.
That's pretty much what happened.
I was gonna do. We recently. I always think I get a kick out of these people who read like their mean comments online and whatnot. And recently, between one of our videos, and we don't know if it was between you or me,
Oh, no.
but somebody was like, "Nice glasses. How blind are you?" or something to that effect.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And
I
it
am
was
blind
like,
as a bat without my
I
glasses.
was just like,
in case you
how
wondered.
original are you on YouTube? That are
Welcome to
you
third grade.
11? Are you 10? Right?
I think next week's episode we have Davey pull a bunch of the fun comments from our videos and we just sit and
Oh,
talk
no.
about them.
Oh my
Oh, boy.
gracious! And we just read the comments to people.
Well,
Roast the
I'm
comments.
going to pull this back off the park bench and try to get us back on
All
track
right,
here.
yeah. All right.
So anyway, no fire happened. Definitely injured. I hit the left side more than the right side, come to find out. The next day, I thought I was just on fire, so I didn't know.
I
But
think
as
it's
a week
valuable.
in
The
at
piece
this
that you
point-
told me was like, it's like when you're kids and you're roughhousing and you get the wind knocked out of you, you
Yes.
fall or whatever. And as an adult, you haven't had that experience in so
No.
long. But I think we can all, our listeners, and can all conceptualize that feeling. We all remember that feeling where you knock the wind out of you.
And you can't
And
breathe.
you can't breathe. You're gasping for breath, and
Yeah.
kind of
And that's when I thought I was going to die.
They were like, "This is it. This is how I go out."
'Cause it wasn't
With a park
working.
bench.
It was like third, fourth breath. I'm like, okay, anytime now. This
You
could
try
go
to
back.
restart your lungs.
Yeah, it
you
could
know?
go back into effect. And the best part is my poor wife. Not only is she just able to be the pillar of our family and carry us all on her back multiple times, I can come up and be injured while she gets home and go, well, okay, what are we going to do about this now?
Right. And she's got a plan for you, especially because you had this really nice evening planned
Yes.
for her.
Darla says after a certain age you need a bubble to surround yourself with.
Yes.
I'm
concur.
gonna disagree and just say in my life and my family we just need a bubble. Period. It doesn't matter
That's
how old.
true, too.
Oh, you guys definitely need that bubble.
So anyway, as that happened, my body of my car was still in the garage on the firewall. I had appropriately painted the bottom, put up the reinforcements. You guys are all updated to that. And she almost single-handedly put the body down onto a cart the next day on that Monday. She then assisted me. Motivation that I go out and work standing a little bit at a time over the course of that week and painting stuff, which was actually good because I could do a little bit and then go retreat into the house and be sad and be old. But I got it all painted. Then as a reward, I decided I was going to put, there's a little patent, which is like 40 patents long because we're, so far into the Ford company at this point, that goes on the firewall. So I was like, I'll put that on. And me being me, I couldn't just use the screws I had. I had to use rivets.
Oh, jeez.
2 of the holes were appropriate.
Authenticity.
Yeah, you know,
Yes.
for those Pebble Beach points. Anyway, the top 2 rivets worked perfectly. The bottom one, not so much. And then I had to drill one, so I got that one right. And I'm like, well, I'll just back it up with a dolly, and I'll use my air hammer, and I'll peen it over, and promptly, immediately dimpled the firewall the wrong way and ruined the paint job right by the tag.
Oh, good.
So then I had to fix that. It's not as good as it was, but oh well, it is what it is. And for that ball kick of my beach ball, you want to tune into that. Anyway, put my voltage regulator on
so
next
good.
to it.
That was so good.
He played right into it.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, I was over there working on wiring going, just talking about me, man. So many beach balls. Anyway, so then we, lots of griping happened over the course of trying to heal. One side is basically back to normal. The other side is not by any stretch. We ended up getting the body outside. I got the chassis out of the other bay, and then working with my son and my wife and my daughter driving, we got all the parts back together. And for the first time in over a year, the car looks like a car again.
Yeah, it's super cool. I mean, and these things will come and go in the course of building a vehicle, right? Because as lifelong builders,
Yes.
we've seen this before, right?
And life happens.
And life happens. And the
Yes.
challenge is this is when it's really hard because it looks great altogether, but the devil's in the details, right?
Yes.
That just because it looks good altogether, we see other builders, other DIYers now try to push the process because now they're excited and they're
Yes.
going, oh, well, now I want to drive it. Now I want to
And
have
I've
this
wanted to drive it
experience.
for 3 years, but you can have a plan. You can think you know what's going to happen. The car, as soon as we put the body on, was like, oh, you think you have a plan, huh?
Right,
You think you know what you're going to do next, huh?
right.
And the exhaust promptly wouldn't let the body sit down on the back of the frame.
I
So
saw that update.
My
No
loving
wonder.
wife stuffed herself under the car, took the clamps off the exhaust while I used a jack to jack the body up in corners so that I can take that off. The exhaust still hits the floor without the
Wow.
clamps. Just now I'm closer to being able to bolt it down. So now it's going to have a tailpipe ectomy and some re-engineering there. Luckily, I have that ability. I've done it here multiple times with Jeeps, built whole systems, so a 2 tailpipe shouldn't be too bad. But that was not in the plans.
No,
or
no, you
expected.
thought that was done, right?
I thought it was done.
That's the biggest frustration is when you're redoing something that you
Yes.
had thought was already
and
addressed.
try to do well.
Yeah,
But it is, as is life, as is working on vehicles in general, especially older ones. That is what happens.
yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
So,
Jeffrey, you guys, obviously we haven't aired since you had your big fireworks show.
So the fireworks show was fun. There's a reason why I preach safety and safety protocols with fireworks.
Yes.
If you don't have experience doing it, just don't do it.
Yeah.
Unless you have somebody there to help that has
It really
experience.
is one of those. It really is one of those things that you need to learn from somebody else,
Yeah.
right? And or work
And
into
you need
over
to- they
a
need to
long,
apply,
long time.
like, do they have all their fingers? Do they have all their limbs?
Right? Is that the person you want to be learning
Yes.
from?
If they're
right?
missing some stuff, you
Though
probably don't
I
want to learn
think we
from them.
all knew that the best shop teachers back in the day
Had
were the
lost a
ones-
finger.
had lost a finger or two. I think they learned to appreciate and they learned to keep their fingers out of the machinery, so therefore they could convey that more.
Well, you just have
us.
to add a application process. Are you actually? Did you learn from this?
So
Did you learn from this,
one of
old Mr. Nubbins? Did you?
Yes.
one of the neighbors from the area had come over and was asking me, how do I stay safe doing fireworks? Why do I do it? I said, well, I've been doing it for 20 years and I'm still afraid of them. I said, you have to take
Healthy
them serious.
dose of fear. Yeah.
You have to take it serious. We actually did have a very, very bad explosion on our rack. It shattered an entire rack that was wood screwed together.
Just this week is what he's saying, folks. I mean,
Yeah.
he was doing this show for Labor Day because his 4th of July show was postponed.
Yep.
And and this is when this explosion happened.
So, I mean, the explosion was extremely close call. Thankfully, between the two of us that were doing the show, we both have over 20 years experience doing it. We both recognized that something was wrong immediately and both took off running into a designated safe area. the rack just exploded. There was literal boards of wood that landed 55 feet away from there. The pieces of the tube were just spewed in two different directions. The firework, because it exploded on the ground in the tube, if we had not set safe viewing distances, viewers would have been injured. It was just a bad situation. But because we take safety protocols, we follow guidelines that we have established to make sure everybody's safe. Nobody was injured, and better yet, nobody knew it exploded on us.
Oh, that's good.
Until afterwards.
Yeah.
That we had the show set up in such a way that we were able to keep going. We both were reasonably prepared to run out of the way as needed, but we had enough set up that we were able to continue the show as if nothing happened.
Sure.
But again, it's one of those things that it just makes you think and realize how close that was.
Well, and why you guys need that bubble.
And what? Yes.
Yes.
But in 20 years of doing it, I've never had one explode like that.
Yeah.
That was the closest call I've ever had. And again, it just makes us go, okay, well, what can we do better next year?
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's a healthy, I mean, I hate to say a healthy dose of fear, but it's a respect for the process, right? In automotive world, we think about the fact that over dramatizing, we drive these 4,000-pound death machines, right? I mean, people don't understand that when you're in a precarious situation off road, you should not put your arm out the window,
Yes.
right? You should be buckled up while you're doing that. You should not be drinking and trying to.
You should not be a
run
ping pong ball in the vehicle.
You should not be a ping pong ball. You should have things strapped down, right?
Yes.
It's this idea of having an appreciation for the actuality or the severity of the situation for the
Because
moment.
when you least expect it, the park bench is going to get you.
Well, and Joe's asking, does blowing up old tank models with firecrackers count as experience? You know,
Joe, I would love for that to be part of the SFJ experience.
Absolutely. And then my wife's calling me out going, lies, I knew, but it was so quick, I didn't know how bad it was, but she was the only one that caught it.
Oh, okay.
And she only caught it because we had one blow up low to the ground last year. It wasn't anywhere near as dangerous, but she recognized
So
from a distance what it looked
Sure.
like.
She's just a good wife and pays attention to you babbling about it. So she's picked up some.
That's
Well, I
right,
honestly
right.
think she just saw the flashlight go running and went, oh, something's about to happen.
Yes. Yes.
Let me get 911 on speed dial here because
Let me get 911.
Well,
Should I call 911 now or now?
afterwards, she was very upset with me because she's like, you know, if something would have actually been bad, it would have been a while before we knew because the show kept going because we had so many extra fuses lit and they were still launching.
Yes.
So you need a life alert system for
for
when you do fireworks.
his fireworks, right?
Yeah.
No doubt.
Josh Sharp is on here saying that goes for the trail you've already done twice that day with no problems. It's gonna get you.
Yes.
Always. And that was
You have to respect it.
in the climbing industry. Those of you who know some of my previous lives that I lived before SFJ, we always used to tell people that the people who get injured climbing are the most experienced climbers because
Yes.
we take for granted, right? We lose that
The respect and
that
fear of it.
respect and fear of that moment that kind of keeps us alert in the process. That trail that we've already done twice, and now we're showboating a little bit, or we're being a little less careless. Oh, I did this, last time I was here and I hammered through it. I'm not being as conscientious about skillfully navigating it as I once did. That's there's a greater storyline about taking life for granted,
Yep.
which does realistically play back into 9/11. So
On a more positive note, this past weekend was Lily's birthday, my daughter, so she turned 6. So we were back at the ponds at her request, and I had some family out there and just had a nice little party and celebration. So she had a lot of fun with that.
excellent.
I saw she got a very
so
nice
valuable.
unicorn cake.
Yes, her Aunt Kelly texts me and goes, "So what kind of cake does Lily want?" And I went, "That's a bad question. You shouldn't ask that, but okay.
Yeah.
Here you go." Lily's response was, "I want a princess riding a unicorn on the cake, and it's got to be chocolate."
Oh my.
So Aunt Kelly made a unicorn cake because she didn't have enough time because she literally texted me 2 days before the event.
Sure.
She's like, "But if I had more time, I would have done it."
I could have done a princess on it riding a unicorn, no doubt. How cool. All right, let's I don't have a lot of great anything that's really going to move us forward, folks. So
And Kristen's chiming in. Xander also had good news from Friday's appointment. We don't have to go back to Cleveland for 3 months.
excellent. Good
So-
for you guys, and as always our best to Xander. Lots of moving pieces at SFJ 4x4. Lots of Jeeps and projects and vehicles. Folks who have been trying to help me sell my truck, I appreciate you. That is such a really cool vehicle. And obviously, I have property in Western PA for sale as well right now. And the big piece of, we have a number of assets, big assets that are moving in the Simpson household. And the reality is that this current socioeconomic period with high interest rates and a level of uncertainty in the economy, and back to school, and kind of heading downhill into the holiday season, kind of the the market of nice to have has slowed down, and so. What's good is we do have these assets and we've got them out there, and so people are actively looking at the properties and looking at the vehicles, and obviously here at SFJ 4x4 we're super busy, which is everybody says, hey, that's a good problem to have, and it is, so long as we're communicating all those things to our followers and to our customers, and so lots of stuff in the Simpson household that's moving appropriately at this time. But what people really want to hear are the 3 worst mods, or the 3 worst first mods.
Mm-hmm.
And
Say that 5 times fast, please.
Right?
I think we make him do his 3 first, since he doesn't want to be the same as ours.
No.
Well, especially because he said he's got such unique ones, it makes me question if he's just going to change his ideas after we present
I think
ours.
we all have
totally
to
gonna
present
change.
one at a time.
Okay.
We go in a I actually had thought about but I think we'll save this concept for something else, and it was like wrong answers only. You ever see that on on the social pages,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like wrong answers only? I don't think we need to do wrong answers only today. I think maybe we'll use that level of descriptor, kind of a fun game for us to play with something more affirming. I think the 3 first worst mods are going to be sufficiently engaging enough.
And just so listeners understand, these are our opinions, not facts, but you should listen to them.
Yeah. Yeah. So who's
Mine are going to be
Are we doing one at a time, or are you going to?
one at a time.
Okay.
Okay.
So say he goes first.
Yep.
One at a time. Okay. So probably my biggest pet peeve, I think, worst first mod that people do on their Jeeps, right? And understand, folks, that's what we're pinning this down to, are cheap side steps.
Mm-hmm.
Ah,
So the idea that right
I feel
now
called out.
that yep,
Yeah.
and,
How those doing for you over there, Jeffrey?
and the fact that all the time we have people who come in, and one of the first things they do, they go, I got this Jeep for mobility reasons. Maybe they did a lift on it, maybe they didn't, and they want to put side steps on it at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And my biggest pet peeve in life, or when we're quoting side steps to people, because they come in and they say, oh, I want to do a lift, and with the lift I'm going to want to do steps, and I'm going to do this, that, and the third, and blah, blah, blah. And for whatever reason, side steps, rocker rails, rocker guards, however you want to call that, whatever you think you're doing to the Jeep, is one of those pieces that people seem to overlook. They seem to go, well, I want this, but I don't want to spend a lot of money on it.
Mm-hmm.
And until you do, because the challenge with these cheap side steps that you're getting on Amazon, or you're getting from a reputable e-com retailer, but they're so cheap. If they're a few $100s cheaper than everybody else has got, or God forbid, if your side steps are under $200, I don't care. I don't care who you are or what you think you bought. They're garbage. And they are rusting from the inside out already, or they're made with super thin metal that after 1 or 2 winters, they're going to be fully depreciated.
They're going to be a park bench.
They're going to be a park bench if they're still even on the vehicle because they haven't
Yeah.
rusted away. I am so frustrated constantly at people who buy $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 Jeeps and then want to put a $250 sidestep on it. And I'm thinking to myself, like, that's two of these things are not like, each other.
Mm-hmm.
And they start to rust at the seams, or the moment that you brush into a shopping cart at the Walmart, it's dented, or broken or problematic.
And I'm going to put it a step further because before I started here, obviously I bought mine, and we know how poor those are holding up. I didn't buy the $200 ones. I did some research, and I picked ones that were
You thought
supposed
you
to
were
be
buying good.
were supposed to be reputable, and they were garbage from the
Yes.
get-go.
Yes.
And that can happen.
And I did spend on the cheaper end of what you can get for steps, but I was still, to me, I was in a midpoint price point.
Yeah, and that's a very good, valid point. It depends on the model, what is a good investment or a cheap investment or a large investment. Because if you have the newest, bestest, fanciest Jeep, that part's going to be expensive and may not be the highest quality.
Correct.
You might want a little time to pass just to have better products come to market.
Right. And that's a testament to where Jeffrey was at because, with his Gladiator, his full-size pick-em-up truck,
There wasn't that many
there
available.
wasn't that many
Right.
options available. And there's a number of brands that are highly marketed. They've invested a lot of money into their marketing,
I fell for it.
and a lot of people fall for it.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of people fall for it. And it's just the reality that they're at a mid price point and they have enough appropriate initial reviews, because if you cast a wide enough net, you have that person who's in the most idyllic conditions. So if they're in the Southwest where humidity is low and it's hot and dry and the trails are very wide open, their experience with a particular bumper or side steps is going to be very different than an individual who's here in the Great Lakes region, the Rust Belt, where we're dealing with high humidity, drastic swings of temperature, and salt and brine that we put on the roads to rust out some of this metal. Unfortunately, very quickly, often.
And I will say that the rocker rails that I bought have done their job on the trails. They have taken some abuse. The one's even slightly curved in at this point, but it's protected the Jeep. But the rust belt is eating it away. So if it was a Southwest area, that part probably still looked good.
Sure.
Right.
Sure. And I had a conversation with a manufacturer some time ago, and he has he and I were talking, and they had 3 different products available in this line, right? And the tube steps that this customer had purchased were called tube guards or tube rocker steps or something.
Yeah.
It's something that in the name, and it was the lowest price point of what they offered. It just basically bolted in at the body mounts themselves.
Yep.
Then they had a mid-range that was a little tighter, a little more robust to the body, and then they had a full, what they called a Rubicon rocker rail, which was more of an armor skid inspired rocker guard and step. And they had a customer call in who was wheeling in like the Pacific Northwest and came down and hammered on the side of these tube steps and mangled them. And as they mangled, it pushed up into the rocker itself of the vehicle.
Yep.
And, dented it and affected the opening and closing of the door and tore up the paint and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And this individual is representative of a large manufacturer is talking to the customer going, what did you think you were buying? Like, what made you think that out of the 3 that we offer one at $1,200, one at $800, and one at $450, $600, that you thought somehow you were going to buy that $450, $600 and it was going to do the same job as the $1,200 version? Like, that doesn't...
I know what it was. they didn't know what they didn't know until they knew it.
There it is.
There it
So,
is.
You know, talking about the mods, I'm gonna go with my next one, and it is already shown up in the comments, so that's why I'm just gonna jump right into it.
Okay.
Jeez.
Mine is the Angry Grill. I cannot stand it. I prefer to see the 7 slots. The Angry Grill.
He went there.
That
did.
has irritated me for years, well before I was ever here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So my general thing is I want to see the 7 slots. I don't really
Yeah.
give a fig whether you put an
Yes.
Angry Grill on or a turtle face or whatever.
Will somebody make a happy grill though? I mean, why is Jeep's got to be angry all the time?
You would rock a happy grill. You would. I
that's
mean,
the aggressive
there's-
look of it. I'll give them that. But I like the 7
Yeah.
slots.
My
And,
Jeep
and
would
when
be
you go to
happy.
the Angry Grill,
your Jeep would be happy. You're absolutely right. Even though it's called Oscar,
right.
I mean,
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. It's Scott. It's because he's
Yeah.
Scott. He's happy in his own little space.
Yes.
And Oscar the Grouch was happy in his trash can, but everybody left him alone.
My-
right?
My thing
100%.
is if you're gonna change the grill, change the insert, not the face of the grill.
Sure.
Yeah.
The inserts, the little. There's little accessories you can do to
Correct.
keep it 7
Put
slots.
some eyelids on it. I don't care. Just leave the 7 slots.
I like the eyelashes. Right.
That's what I'm saying.
You could do eyelashes. Everybody's got to be so angry, and that's I think a unique thing about us is that we've talked about this a little bit this morning. We come off very bold, very kind of big, over the top, red and black and tons and 40, that kind of stuff. And quite frankly, I think that all too much of our industry takes way too serious what we do.
Oh yeah.
Like the Jeep's got to be angry. I'm like, hey, have fun with it. It's a reflection of you. I just want to see you make wise and merit-worthy investments into your vehicle. I don't really care if it's an Angry Grill. I prefer the 7 slots.
Joe wants Scott to put eyelashes on his headlights.
I mean, Oscar the Grouch did have big eyelashes.
Yeah, I think you need to do it.
Oh,
I think you need to do
my goodness!
And Brian, welcome
we need
to the
find
live.
we need to find eyelashes on Amazon.
So-
Savage.
Brian is the first time getting onto a live, so welcome.
Hey, welcome, Brian. We're so glad you could join us. That is excellent. We're glad you made that a priority today. Happy to have you here. All right, so you're
Scott-
on the Angry Grill. It made its way into the comments. That's why, folks, you should be here on
Yeah.
the comments as well.
So mine, like always, it's going to be a Scottism. Tires, because people buy tires when they first buy their Jeep. You get the used Jeep, they go out and they look at it and they go, oh, these tires are worn, or I don't like this tread pattern or that kind of stuff. So I'm going to go out and I'm going to buy these tires. But I haven't used my Jeep. I don't actually know what I'm going to do with my Jeep. And you've done this big investment, and then it doesn't last.
Sure.
And I hate that. Hate
Yeah,
it
it's a
with a passion.
The other piece is they don't know about the tires yet, right?
Yes.
How often, because they're just buying a size, they're going into local Jim Bob's garage or
Yep.
their buddy, and they're just buying a size. They're not buying a construction of tire.
Yes.
I mean, listen, folks, right now there is a couple different manufacturers that in a particular size of tire, let's just call it a 35, 12, 5, 17, super common. There's a couple manufacturers who have 5 or 6 different tires available. So
Yep.
they just say, oh, I bought Falcon 35s. No, there's 5 or 6 different versions.
Yes.
You can have a load E, you can have a load C, you can have an MT, you can have an AT. You know what? Some people don't even know what those things mean.
Yes. And that's one of the reasons why when you come in, we ask you, what are you going to do with it? What's your projection for mods coming in the future? And we've had people go, well, I don't know. And then our response is, well, go use it the way it is.
Yes.
Because, yeah, it may not be optimized, but then you know what you want to do. We just this weekend had a very lovely couple. They bought their Jeep about a year ago, and they've drawn some really nice accessories, and they spent all this time, effort, painting wheels, buying tires, that kind of stuff, and now they don't meet what they want to do with the Jeep.
Ouch.
So, and then they're good sports about it. They're gonna move on and change the Jeep as it needs to be. But I hate seeing all that extra work, time, effort, money, expense. And you didn't have to. You could have done it the first time.
Yes. And I get on my own soapbox. Load F tires never belong on your Jeep.
No, they barely belong on a 3/4 ton truck.
They never ever. And if you don't know what load F means or load E or load C, then you should not be buying tires independently on the internets
Yes.
without consulting, some type of off-road or tire expert in the process.
I feel like you have recent experience with a load F on 20s.
It was fine. It was fine. I mean, again, just the the fortunate reality is that what I believe here at SFJ 4x4 is in the absence of high dollar accoutrements and tools that we make up for in being high quality mechanics and understanding processes. And so a testament to our lead performance mechanic, he went ahead and he developed a process for us to do these particular tires, which are in fact load F on 20. So they were 35, weren't they? So it gives them only about a 6.5-inch sidewall, which load F is basically a dump truck tire, if you are unaware.
Like F450 territory.
Yeah, because it has basically 12 ply of reinforcement in the radial bands itself. And so it's a very stiff tire by comparison. The objective of a Jeep is to have, first of all, it's not as heavy as a half-ton pick-em-up truck, despite how Jeffrey tries to use his. And the bigger the tire, the less air pressure we need. That means that to have the ideal ride quality and off-road performance, we don't want dump truck tires on our Jeeps.
Yeah, and they don't need to have 40 to 80 pounds of pressure in them either.
No, they don't.
It will drive like a dump truck if you do all that, though.
All right, so my next worst mod is going to be box store, and so I'm going to just generically term it. It could be a box automotive store. It could be a box department store. Seat covers.
It's a good one.
That is a good one.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I told you I wanted them to be a little obscure, right? Not things that we normally fuss about internally.
That's such a good one because I have such a soapbox with that one too. And
do you? What's your soapbox? I would like to hear your soapbox.
Enjoy your vehicle. Don't save it for the next guy.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
If you're going to put seat covers on, have a just reason why you're going to eventually take them off and enjoy it. I hated seeing people go out and then buy those cheap box store seat covers, and then they trade it in, and the car dealer goes, "Thank you." They cut them off, and your interior is like brand new.
Correct. Now,
if that's your goal, kudos. Do you. I'm going to enjoy my seats.
Yeah.
And I apologize whoever gets a vehicle after me.
No doubt. The thing is, here's the thing. I don't mind a Bartak or equivalent seat
quality seat cover.
A quality seat cover that has
doesn't move every time you get in.
There you go, right? So now, there it is. So you go out and you buy, and the problem is those box store seat covers.
They're not cheap.
They're not cheap,
especially if you got to have a Jeep logo or something where they had to pay.
They had to pay a royalty on it.
Yeah.
They're not cheap, and yet the way that they affix to the seat does not last. They're good on install sometimes.
Ish.
Yeah. And the reality is they do not last. And this again is
and they're often universal fit.
Yes.
So it fits multiple vehicles and it doesn't actually have proper attachment points.
Yes. Correct. And that's the thing is that, so what is people's motivation to go and buy that box store? It's an immediate gratification. I didn't have to wait for them. I was walking through the back aisles of the automotive section of Walmart. Yeah, I was out for milk, and I was excited for something for my Jeep, and I put on these seat covers. They loosen up. They don't have great fitment. They don't hug in all the right, the curves in the right places. And then to take it one step further with our Jeeps, as soon as you take the top and the doors off, that wind that's ripping through the cabin area
will hurt them.
Will hurt them and loosen them up.
If that doesn't, the sun will.
Yes. Yep. Yes, that is exactly correct. That if the wind doesn't, take them out at the knees, the UV rays will fade them and depreciate the stitching in them.
Yep.
And all too often we see people who, don't want to put the money out for a good quality seat cover, or they want that immediate gratification and they buy it at that local box retailer, be it automotive or department store, but definitely overspending on cheap seat covers to then, to just do it again in 6, 8, 10, 12 months is so infuriating.
So my next one is going to be cheap lights.
There it is.
Whether it be the fun colors
or the easy ones.
I know he is.
No,
that's all right.
But I specifically...
It's justified, but still.
I specifically picked that one because I get irritated by how quickly the wires corrode out, how poorly wires are often installed because the directions aren't clear, and as a DIYer, you may not know proper ways to route the wires to keep them safe and secure.
Yep.
People are sometimes using house wiring nuts because they're familiar with using house wiring,
Sure.
Mhm.
different than automotive wiring.
Yep.
So there's a lot
Well,
of
it's not environmentally, secured or
Sealed.
protected at
Correct.
that point.
So that's why I specifically go with that. Oftentimes the cheaper color lights are not going to last, but almost always it's because of the wiring.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I agree. And I over the weekend as I drove down I-90, screaming down, and I saw another where clearly a vehicle had burnt down. Like you can always see that imprint on the ground, and I always go, how did that vehicle burn down? Right? I mean,
And it always looks like it starts around the battery.
and it's always
100%.
amazing, and you see people online. These Jeeps burn down, folks. If you followed me for any period of time, you know that I have lit some vehicles on fire. None of them have burnt all the way down to the ground. First of all,
Mhm.
knock on wood. Second of all, they're not that type of electrical fire because of dead shorts or
Nothing OE happened.
correct,
Yeah.
right? And it's always just a fascinating testament amongst professionals because there's always kind of like out of the side of the mouth, be like, well, yeah, did you see that restoration or that build that so-and-so did? Yeah, it burnt down like 2 weeks later. You know what I mean? Like, and for whatever reason, the consumers don't talk about that. They just talk about how beautiful and exciting such and such was.
Right.
And professionals can identify the fact that there's a correlation there. That
Mhm.
beautiful build, that was released 2 weeks, 10 months, whatever earlier, and it burns down. There's a direct relationship.
And that's Josh is in the comments saying just anything wired directly to the battery, and that's kind of my stance on that. And it's from the fire department experience of how many vehicles I've been to that have been on
Yep.
fire because of bad wiring, whether it be the cheap wiring from Chinese
Yep.
lights or whatever.
Yeah,
Mhm.
the only thing that gets wired directly to the battery on a large scale is your winch. And I talk about that in a previous video, and that's why routing your positive winch cable is critical.
Yes.
Super hyper critical. And so that's a really important piece that folks should be aware of. That's the only thing that should be directly wired. Other than that, everything else should be fused or routed in such a way that it's utilizing some type of switch pod or fused bracketry.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
All right, sir. Do you have another one?
I've been trying to decide. There's so many good ones.
Okay.
Good ones or bad ones?
Well, yes. One of my pet peeves is that you spend quality money elsewhere in the vehicle, and then you put a winch that I've never even heard of in the bumper. And it's even worse points for me when you have a quality bumper and you have this like Wish winch.
Wish wins
I
from
mean,
Temu.
From
Temu is selling winches now, folks. Wish
and I
app.
have a little bit of a give and take here. I will not judge you for putting a Harbor Freight winch in.
Right.
They are halfway decent. They do have it available. You can have an impulse buy and be able to use it, and then you will get your Jeep out and get your buddy out
I
a
agree.
few times.
I've got
You if you're going to go all in, do a Warn as you should. But if you have to, get off Wish, take a ride to your local Harbor Freight,
yes.
and buy a winch. The
I
only
honestly think that's my number 2 winch is a Badlands Harbor
Yeah.
Freight Badlands winch.
and I wouldn't get their fanciest one that they're trying to be a Warn. Get their standard one. But the other thing I have to add with that is they have this weird on-off switch. You don't need that.
Hmm.
And you're just making more complicated things at your battery. If you ever are trying to figure out how to install something, go to the fanciest product you can and look at their installation instructions and then follow suit. There's a reason why the $1,200 winch is installed the way it is.
Mhm.
And maybe you should use some hints and trips on that for your $600 winch.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. All right. So mine is not exciting as the last one. I suppose I did not save the best for last. And it will be our poorly prepped, color coordinated accessories.
Yeah, there it is.
Yes.
That's
Right?
a good one.
And so the idea is the preparation, right? So all too often, I am here for accent colors.
Yes.
I am here for accent graphics. I love the idea of little pops of color or tasteful, accessories or accessorizing that brings this blip of your thematic color into your Jeep. But the issue is, I believe that people, they jump in and they do their color right away, or they don't know what color they're going to do, so they're on social media going, "What color looks good with such and such?" You know, and so we don't pay it close attention or the care that it should be. So now you're out there with a random rattle can that you picked up again at your random box
While
retailer,
you're getting
or
milk and your seat covers.
while you're getting milk in your seat covers,
Yeah.
and you have done no prep to the surface.
Because you don't know it, you don't know it till you know it.
Correct. And you're just out there with random bits and pieces of your vehicle that you're painting, be it blue or yellow or green or black or whatever today.
Mhm.
And you're painting them randomly in the side yard where dandelions are flying through,
Mhm.
and in the hot baking sun of 1 o'clock, but then you ran out of paint because the can actually wasn't big enough. So now it's going to be 7 or 8 o'clock and it's going to be dewy, and you're trying to paint the other accessory pieces. And it's this idea that, yes, that is a comfortable DIY project that you can take on, and I encourage you to do, but put as much energy and effort into the preparation, scuffing it, prepping the surface with maybe a solvent cleaner, and then
And if you
making sure
haven't
that the
done that
adhesion is appropriate.
project before, go out and find a free something or other and practice on that.
Practice. If it's your tow hooks and you're cutting and you're going to be color coordinating your tow hooks, go out and find a similar one or a takeoff tow hook and practice on it and see how stuff is going to stick and adhere.
Mhm.
And do that because again, frequently at the different meets and events, the national shows that we go to, you're walking through the parking lot and you see graphics that are faded, broken, peeling, and or turned sideways, paint that is peeling off and chipping, and you can tell that the stuff was not put on there all that long ago.
Yep.
That it just was not done with care and precision and with a quality product. That's one of the things I think is kind of fun or interesting with our graphics that we sell, our trail tattoos. We actually have an install video with a QR code, and you're getting that. Jeffrey is actually talking you through appropriate installation of the trail graphic so that you can have the best possible experience. You're not just buying some random graphic. You remember those ones that used to be sold at at AutoZone?
Mhm.
We had all those no fear stickers.
Oh,
You
yeah.
just-
Oh yeah.
you
You just slapped them on and you were good.
just slapped them on and you ran away.
yeah.
That's not that's not how you should be doing it. All right, so there's my 3 first worst mods. Jeffrey, Scott, you finish this up with anything?
So I'm gonna go with another functional one, and it is a tow hitch.
Okay.
So I'm going with that because all too often people just go and buy the generic tow hitch off of whatever Wish
Wish again.
for
Our
for their
Timu winch and our Timu hitch.
for their Jeep because they want to be able to pull a small trailer or have something extra tow point, whatever, behind them.
Yep.
But if you don't understand the class ratings, understand what your Jeep's actually capable of,
Yes.
you can really get yourself in a world of hurt. And I've seen too many times where that hitch is literally hanging on by a thread of a weld because they've overused it.
Yep.
They had the inappropriate setup.
I'm going to piggyback off of yours because it's closely related to one of when I was conceptualizing this myself. It's a slightly smaller grouping of people, but individuals who buy their Jeep and then go to, and specifically it seems to be an RV installer. So they've bought a Jeep, and this could be, it's not our direct market audience. We'd like it to be. We'd like to reach these people sooner. But the people who had, they're buying a Jeep because it's a fun sport utility vehicle, not because it's a rugged off-road vehicle. And they're going to tow either their small camper or they're going to tow it behind
Correct.
an RV. they take it to the RV store or some type of Jim Bob's garage, and they put on this hitch that hangs 6 inches below their bumper.
Yep.
First of all, so now we've depreciated any type of departure angle that we might have had. U-Haul, I'm looking at you.
Yeah.
And or the flip side is the wiring itself.
Oh,
so
yeah.
now you've poorly installed
Back
the
to wiring
trailer
again.
wiring.
Yeah.
Full circle there.
Yeah, you've poorly installed the trailer wiring, and every RV, every customer that's come in that has had their wiring put on at the RV store, that RV business, it does not care about you taking your Jeep off-road.
Mhm.
And that big 7-pin or 4-pin is just hanging low at the bottom of your hitch, and it's going to be the first thing you knock off when you are trying to navigate a nice off-road trail, while using your Jeep for what its intended purpose was. If you look at any of our installs, we always flush mount things up in the bumper. We keep that wiring really nice and protected, because we understand the precision that has to go into preserving the functionality of that wiring versus just the first time you're off road it gets knocked off the hitch
And
itself.
Chip's chiming in here saying hitches are not a safe recovery point. I've seen lots of bad things happen when throwing a recovery strap on the ball can get you killed. And you're not wrong, Chip. The ball
That's-
hitches can literally
Never.
just
Yep.
Yeah.
fly right out and do some serious damage.
Yep.
Yes. And we never actually. You should never do that off the ball. I see so many people. Oh my gosh, it makes my head hurt. That's why there's tow hooks. That's why there's so many other safer products available out there to hook on.
And you
for a
can
person.
use the hitch if you put the strap in the hitch and put the pin through it.
I absolutely do that constantly, or I actually have a couple.
You shouldn't go wheeling first step, put the receiver in. That don't stop.
Right.
Yeah.
There's some nice D-ring. There's some nice hooks available. There's some purpose-built products
Yes.
for recovery. But the 2-inch ball is never an appropriate attachment point when hooking onto something else.
Yep.
All right,
Scott,
Scott, do you have anything to finish this
best
up?
best
Yeah.
for last, right?
So I think S is even better because it's more of my kind of stuff.
Oh boy.
I'm not completely calling out any one person, but kind of in general calling out everyone.
Okay.
Anything that limits your field of vision from your windshield.
Mm.
So I'm talking about grumpers, looking at you, improperly installed light bars,
Right.
tinted things or stickers in inappropriate places. We have a small windshield in the cold scheme of things with Jeeps compared to like my
So
nice
you don't
Outback.
want a giant snorkel up the windshield?
That too. Anything that makes that space smaller, don't do that.
Right.
We already have a very small windshield
Field of vision.
field
there.
of vision, and myself, I want to be able to see as much as possible, especially on the trail. So think about that before you go and buy that. And, bring it into the hot rod world. I've heard more than once, like, well, I got in a car accident because I couldn't see him over my tunnel ram or my blower. Well, yes, you added 2 feet of thing over your hood, and you can't physically see the passenger side of the car anymore. That we do that with our Jeeps, with our snorkels, with our grumpers, with our low hanging light bars, that kind of stuff. So
Yes.
don't do that.
There's a bunch of things, and if you have if the inside of your Jeep looks like an aviation cockpit,
Yes.
you might be a
If-
little
if
distracted.
Every
as
time you
well.
have to get in the Jeep, it's like go team go, and you have to flip 40 switches. Don't do that.
I definitely, I definitely get the, how it feels. It's kind of cool to have all this monitoring equipment and our
Yeah.
ability to do that stuff. I do get that. I understand. But at some point in time, we have to then recognize, what have I given up or sacrificed in that process?
Yes.
Again, our field of vision, how distracted am I while I'm driving?
Yeah.
Those types of things, which become a very personal experience. But
Brian's saying ducks on the dash.
that there is
There is a ratio of ducks when there's
ducks
just
to
too
dash that I feel like should be too many.
I think it's appropriate and fun to have some ducks, but when if you even turn the steering wheel just a hair and all the ducks go flying off the dash, you probably have too
many.
many.
Time
Too
to
many
release
distractions.
some ducks into the
Release some
wild.
ducks back to the wild.
Yes.
Create a duck display for the back of the Jeep. I don't know, dude.
Give them to some children.
Yep.
Make somebody else
Chuck them out
happy
your
with
window
your-
at another Jeep. I mean,
Yeah.
we've all
No,
been
you
there.
haven't experienced that. or
No,
anything.
not driving down the highway at all.
Oh goodness! All right, folks. I hope that that's a fun insight to at least how our brains work. You might feel a little called out. That's not our intention. It is to help think about, process what are some of those things that both are we doing to our own vehicles, but when our friend gets the Jeep, how are we helping them through the process and encouraging quality investment in their new vehicle so that they can enjoy it as much as we enjoy our Jeep life as well. We're going to take a brief moment to transition, and we will be right back with our hashtag not sponsored.
And now it's time for our product spotlight. Hashtag not sponsored. Spotlight. Hashtag not sponsored.
Scott is our product. We're just going to Vanna White him.
It's a notebook.
Folks who are just listening to us, all three of you, Jeff and I are just like, our mouths are open, our heads are in our hands. Scott's just like cheesing like a 5-year-old holding a little notebook.
So this is
it's a little black notebook at
It
that.
is. You should always have a little black book. Anyway.
Oh boy.
So anyway, this is a tie-in for a previous thing, and plus what we just
I
talked
can't
about.
wait.
So in a build, it doesn't matter if you're doing a restoration or a Jeep build or that kind of stuff. You need to get all your thoughts in one location. You also need to be able to take some notes of what you progress through so that you can go back and reference that later. I literally was thinking of Neil when I picked this because he has a notebook that he carries with him everywhere.
It's true.
It looks it. and he writes down any small idea you have, put it on paper. It doesn't matter how silly it feels at the moment. You can go back and kind of cultivate those ideas. That is how you get a good build. That is how you get a Jeep that looks well put together, not just going out and making, random decisions.
Isn't that true? We can really see when a Jeep, again, when it's out in the wild or when we've personally experienced it, we can really see the thought process behind an individual.
Yes.
Somebody who has the clarity of saying, hey, they saw the vision from start to finish.
Yep.
Or, hey, I can really see where that individual was just kind of randomly doing things willy-nilly as the spirit moved them.
100%. And you can go back through it later. You can say, oh, this is how I've grown as a Jeeper. This is how my project has progressed. You can literally turn it into something that you keep with the vehicle if you so desire.
I feel like at this point, Neil's got to have a whole bookshelf of composite
So
notebooks.
what's
He
fun
does.
is that I actually do have my notebooks. And
when I say a composite notebook, I'm talking about back in like middle school when we had to
Yes.
we had to have the notebooks that we had to write in. This is what he's using.
the
black
5-star,
and white,
come on.
the black and white composite notebooks.
So I do at this point in time as we air my dirty laundry, I suppose, administratively, the thing that I had to learn years ago, because again, if you get to know me on a personal level more and more, as we pull away those layers of the onion of the ogre, I have entirely too many thoughts running through my brain at any given time.
Yep.
And I will absolutely forget things if it's not written down. Equally, if I write them down and I don't write it down in with better note-taking skills, I'll go back and be like, who's Jim? And why do I have this number?
Yes.
Right? Likewise, if we're talking about your vehicle, torque specifications,
100%.
torque specifications, articulation numbers.
Yep.
We have a number of customers that I get along swimmingly with who present me with spreadsheets with all of their information that they have done exactly what you're saying.
Yep.
And I know the people with the note cards and the notebooks, they keep them in their Jeeps. They track their fuel mileage. They track their off-road trips. They'll write a little bit of like, hey, we went so-and-so and I love it when we're diagnosing, because some of these individuals be like, I heard this squeak happen when I did blah maneuver or blah trail. And I'm like, cool. I can help diagnose that at this point.
100%.
You know?
So real quick in the comments, Chuck is saying Neil's got a trapper keeper. He absolutely,
as you should.
He absolutely should.
They're back
and he's
if you don't know
he's
that.
bringing it back with a fanny pack. Just saying.
Right. Bring it back to fanny pack.
And then Chip is saying mine is a weatherproof notebook I have from the Navy days. Fits in a cargo pocket. No, I don't wear pants with cargo pockets anymore. Bring them
Come on.
back.
Yes,
Come
you
on, Cap.
absolutely do.
Right,
Right here,
right
man.
with the fanny pack and the trapper keeper.
I'm
Yes.
here for cargo shorts.
Cargo shorts that go just below the knee.
Yeah.
Because we're living in an age where shorts are now, we're back like in the 70s,
Yeah.
where shorts get to be just below the underwear line.
Yeah,
And I'm
no.
struggling
I'm
with
not
that,
here
folks.
for that.
I wore my first pair of shorts. Now, folks who are listening to the episode, you know that we talked about socks and sandals about a month ago. I'm trying to embrace that new trend look.
Nope.
Recently, I've had
Nope.
to wear shorts that I didn't have to. I chose to wear shorts that exposed my knees, and I've never felt more naked in my life. Oh,
That
my
is
goodness.
call out our generation right there. In the
Isn't
whole.
that something? As a whole.
And Joe said that he has a notebook, but he keeps losing his crayons.
Perfect.
I hate it when that happens.
Oh, no doubt. And I think that there's so many manners to actually talk about the notebook process,
Yeah.
both on.
You could literally do a whole podcast.
We could
on
do a
what you
podcast.
I mean,
on a
honestly,
notebook.
honestly, we kind of talked a little bit about it in the American Hustle somewhat recently, where we talked about planners and organizers,
Mhm.
and Neil's system is the notebook
Yes.
because a planner just doesn't work for him. And I used planners for years, and oftentimes I find just that blank piece of paper is more
Well,
effective.
and think about it. You go on a trail. It's a really cool trail. You talk about it in your notebook of what this looked like, what you experienced, that kind of stuff. And then you go back the next year. You can reference that in your notebook,
Yes.
and you can see, hey, I had a problem on this specific part of the trail, and now I've done these upgrades, and now suddenly I can overcome that obstacle. And you didn't think about those until you referenced it back
Until you go back and you
in
look.
your notebook.
And that's, I mean, just as at an ownership level, that is one of the extreme values to the stack of notebooks that I do have,
Yes.
is to go back and look at, something that I felt was a very big problem
Yep.
then, 2, 4, 6 years ago, and recognize that how trivial that is, or how I would address that now, or the personnel that we have and the skill set that we've developed because of these things.
It's because you got better.
It-
It didn't get easier.
It didn't get easier. It got better. Man, we are just throwing. We're
All
just
the
throwing
tie-ins.
all the tie-ins. If you're listening, you're like, man, I wonder what these guys are about, folks. We are on YouTube. We've got Dose Podcasts. We're a rip roar to come in and hang out with in the brick and mortar.
Yep.
Obviously, our posted hours. Obviously, Facebook and Instagram. We want to engage you. We want to be part of the Jeep community with you. And we're just throwing around all the different tie-ins today.
Well,
So
and I love how many times I've talked to people about podcasting, and I'm like, yeah, actually, we have 2 podcasts that I produce for us, and they're like, 2?
Yeah.
How do you even do 1?
Yes. Yeah. And that's, and there's a whole conversation in kind of forcing things into the universe and prioritization. But with that said, we do have Jeeps to build.
Yep.
We've got podcasts to produce. We've got YouTube videos to shoot and air.
And notebooks
So-
to write in.
And notebooks to write in. Oh, amen to that. Folks, we had a great time talking to you about the first worst mods and sharing with you what our thoughts are on that. Next week, you're going to want to tune in and share with us again on the I Speak Jeep podcast presented by SFJ4x4.com. Until then, Jeep on.
Keep on.
Jeep on.